A year into our marriage, and my husband had never touched me. Just as I was about to find a man to cheat with, comments started scrolling across my vision. The side character is so clueless. Does she have any idea what kind of a beast the male lead is keeping leashed in his pants? He doesn't touch her because he's afraid she can't handle it. He's terrified she'll hate him, so he's bottling it up until he's about to explode. And what happens? His wife runs off with some other guy. LMAO. Hehe. If she doesn't mess up, how can the female lead come and save him? Our girl gets treated so well later on. It's nonstop action, day and night. The comments left me frozen. The side character was me, and the male lead was that my husband in name only, Jack. Before I could process it, a man's voice pulled me back. Rosalind, did you need something from me? The man before me wore a pair of silver-rimmed glasses, his features handsome and scholarly. His name was Arthur. He was one of the few men in our small town with a college education. He was also the man I was planning to sleep with. His gaze shifted to the eggs I was holding out. Are those for me? He asked, his eyes betraying a flicker of excitement beneath a veneer of modesty. They were. Or they were supposed to be. A year of marriage, and my husband wouldn't lay a finger on me. The other young wives who got hitched around the same time were already pregnant with their second, while I hadn't even had a wedding night. I can't count the number of times the neighbors have whispered behind my back, calling me a barren hen. I'm not a woman with thick skin. And, at this point, does it matter who the father is? So I'd set my sights on the bookish Arthur. I just needed a donor. But now, remembering the strange words that had floated past my eyes, I hesitated. The comments appeared again. This girl's got terrible taste. She's got a man with broad shoulders and a lean waist, a top-tier body, and she's chasing after this skinny beanpole. All she has to do is crook her finger, and the ML would go at it with her till dawn. But no, she picks the guy who's done in 10 minutes. The contrast is just painful. Holy crap. Why didn't you guys say so earlier? Nothing. Just passing by. I snatched the eggs back and sprinted away. I ran all the way home. A thin wisp of smoke curled from the chimney. Jack was standing at the stove, focused on cooking. He must have just gotten off work. He hadn't even changed. Sweat soaked his shirt, clinging to his body and outlining the powerful, tight muscles beneath. His back was a solid wall of strength, his waist lean and powerful. His sleeves were rolled up, revealing tanned, sinewy forearms. I swallowed hard. Jack looked like he had endless stamina. It was one of the main reasons I'd agreed to marry him in the first place. The comments flickered to life again. Look at that build. 6'3" of pure, rugged male lead. An athlete's waist. This guy is a certified weapon.
She almost got to taste the good stuff.
You give her the opportunity and she still fumbles it. What a beautiful idiot. Good thing she's a fool. Our sweet female lead would never want a man another woman's already used. I gritted my teeth. Calling me a fool was one thing, but telling me my husband had to stay celibate for some so-called female-led? The hell with that. Tonight, Jack was mine. Jack hadn't said a word since I'd stormed in. He just kept working silently at the stove. A sliver of doubt crept in. Were these comments just messing with me? His cold demeanor didn't exactly scream, "I'm in love with you." I pulled out the eggs, about to put them back in the kitchen. Just then, a deep, magnetic voice sounded right next to my ear. "Did you go to the chicken coop?" My heart leaped, and I spun around, relieved. I was overthinking it. He did care about me, but his brow was furrowed, his eyes filled with disapproval. "Didn't I tell you not to do that kind of work?" His tone was scolding. I was stunned. He was yelling at me. And for what? For getting eggs from our own coop. This is what the comments called love. A wave of anger washed over me, and I was about to snap back with a sarcastic remark. Just then, new comments flew by.
See?
You're jumping to conclusions again. He's not mad at you. The coop is filthy, and he doesn't want you going in there. He quietly takes care of all the dirty, tiring chores himself. It breaks my heart to see the ML being so good to her when I know our sweet FL is waiting. Can this side character just get written out of the story already? I'm so over her.
Who cares about that?
As a romance connoisseur, I just want to know if he's bigger than an egg down there. Much bigger. The anger vanished as I read. But when my eyes caught the last two audacious comments, I nearly choked. A large, warm hand landed on my back, patting it gently. Jack's expression was full of concern. What's wrong? My gaze drifted downward. Even his loose trousers couldn't hide the impressive bulge at his crotch. The words tumbled out of my mouth before I could stop them. Nothing. Just wondering which is bigger, you or the egg. Jack froze. Then his handsome face flushed a deep crimson. You're a lady. You can't say things like that. Do you want an egg? I can cook another one for you. With that, he practically fled, his movements clumsy and uncoordinated. The comments erupted in laughter. She's lying. In his mind, he's already got her screaming his name. Based on my extensive reading experience, he's probably imagined them going at it so hard they're both drenched. Doesn't even take that long. My cheeks burned. These people were so bold. I was still an innocent young woman. I couldn't listen to this stuff. But my eyes drifted back to Jack's lean, powerful waist. Could you really work up that much of a sweat doing that? While Jack finished cooking, I finally pieced together the whole story from the stream of comments. It turns out I was the villainous ex-wife in a historical romance novel. I was beautiful and thought the world of myself, always dreaming of marrying some rich man and moving to the city to live a life of luxury. But one day, I accidentally fell into the river and was saved by the male lead, Jack. My body had been seen, and the town gossip forced me to marry him. But how could a rough country farmer compare to a well-read scholar? I was filled with resentment. I constantly berated and hit Jack, and shamelessly carried on with Arthur. When the affair was exposed, I demanded a divorce, only to be swindled out of all my money by my lover and eventually starved to death on the streets. I clutched my chest. That was a close call. I'd almost reached the runaway with another man part of the plot. Looking back on the past year, I really had been awful to Jack. How could I fix this? I agonized over it until I glanced up and saw my reflection in the mirror. Even with a frown, my face lost none of its charm. Every expression was captivating. The comments confirmed it. The side character may be an idiot, but damn, she's gorgeous. Honestly, with that face and body, if she wasn't so stupid, the ML would have taken care of her for the rest of his life. Just the sight of her back has him completely mesmerized right now. My eyes darted to the side. Sure enough, in the corner of the mirror, I could see Jack leaning against the doorframe, his gaze locked on my back, as if he couldn't bear to even blink. I've never been shy about using my looks to my advantage. And of course, I was more than a little curious to see just how dangerous Jack really was. After all, his powerful physique was a big part of why I'd married him. A year of being a widow with a living husband had left me frustrated. Today I was wearing a form-fitting top and a pair of dark blue trousers. A simple, common outfit, but on me, it was undeniably sexy. Big bust, tiny waist, and round hips. I stood up. In the mirror, Jack's eyes followed my every move. The look he cast on my back was hot, obsessive. Then, I casually swayed my hips. Gulp. A loud, distinct swallow echoed through the quiet room. A smirk played on my lips. Hook, line, and sinker. I turned to face him. Jack looked flustered, the tips of his ears bright red. The sound of his own gulp had startled him, and he blurted out the first thing that came to mind to cover his embarrassment. "Honey, the food's ready." The moment the words left his mouth, he seemed to realize his mistake. His face went pale. A comment promptly appeared. "Seriously, this girl is so ungrateful. If the ML hadn't jumped in the river to save her, she would have drowned. And she has the nerve to blame him for ruining her dream of marrying into wealth. She's been a tyrant since they married. She hits him, screams at him, and won't even let him call her honey. RFL is so much better. She only ever thinks about the ML. Not like this spoiled, lazy brat." Remembering my own vicious behavior, the affection in Jack's eyes faded. He lowered his head, his lips pressed into a tight line, bracing himself for the usual storm of insults and blows. But the next moment, a soft warmth pressed against his arm. I stepped forward and wrapped my arms around his strong bicep, my voice a playful purr. "Darling, I love it when you call me that. Say it again for me." Jack froze. Then, as if he'd been burned, he yanked his arm away. He strode toward the dinner table, his movement stiff, his ears glowing red. "I'll get your plate." I smiled, undeterred. So, I'd been a monster in the past. I could change. A man just needs a little sweet talking. The comments weren't so sure. Hold on. Why the sudden personality transplant? Women with big chests are always the most desperate. I bet she's just after his body. No. The ML is still totally into her right now. If he's not a virgin anymore, what about our sweet FL? My smile widened. "Congratulations, you guessed right. And I don't just want to do it once. I want to do it every day." He said he was getting the food, but Jack was nowhere to be found in the kitchen. I didn't think much of it. While I waited, I went back to the room to touch up my makeup. Bold red lips, and eyes that were both sharp and innocently alluring. Like a rose in full, breathtaking bloom. He wouldn't stand a chance. When I came out, Jack was back. But he looked different. His expression seemed even colder than before. My confusion vanished, however, when I saw the dinner table. There were 3 dishes and 2 bowls of rice. One bowl was piled high with rice and meat, forming a small mountain. The other held a meager half bowl of rice with only a few scattered vegetables. Seeing me, Jack pushed the overflowing bowl in my direction. I looked at his own pathetic portion, and a pang of guilt hit me. After we married, Jack never touched me, but he never let me go hungry either. Yet I had been completely dissatisfied with the marriage. I demanded meat at every meal. If I didn't get it, I'd slap him, hit him, and curse him for ruining my chance to marry rich. To give me a good life, he worked from dawn till dusk, and every cent he earned was spent on me. I thought to myself, I really was a monster. I washed my hands. His voice, suddenly near my ear, pulled me from my thoughts. Jack's large, well-defined hands were clenched nervously, his tone cautious. I washed them many times. They're not dirty. I paused. My gaze fell on his sweat-drenched shirt. The work was hard. Every time he came back, he was covered in sweat. He wouldn't even rest before heading straight to the kitchen to cook for me, especially now with the heat. Sweat beaded on his skin, but it didn't smell bad. On his tan skin, it just made him look more masculine.
But
In my memories, I would knock the bowl from his hands with a look of pure disgust. It's filthy. I'm not eating anything your dirty hands have touched. My eyes instantly welled up, and tears began to stream down my face. Jack panicked. He stood up, wanting to wipe my tears away, but not daring to. The next second, he pulled a small pouch from his pocket and offered it to me, his handsome face a mask of helplessness. This is the money from the hunt today. Go buy yourself a nice meal at a restaurant. It's all my fault. Please, just don't cry, okay? I pushed the money away, my voice choked with emotion. I'm not disgusted. I'm heartbroken for you. Jack stared at me as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. I wiped away my tears and scooped 2/3 of the meat and rice from my bowl into his. It breaks my heart that you work so hard every day and eat so little. Lifting my gaze to his handsome face, I couldn't resist leaning in and planting a soft kiss on his cheek. I'm just at home all day. I don't get tired. I don't need to eat this much. You need to eat more so you can be strong and take good care of me. His fingers tightened into a fist, his face flushing a deep red. I hid a triumphant smile.
see?
A little affection was all it took. I leaned in, ready to kiss him again. But the next moment, he pushed me away, sending me tumbling to the floor. I looked up and saw that a vein was throbbing at his temple. His face was dark, terrifyingly grim. He turned his head away, his voice heavy with despair. To think you'd lower yourself to sweet-talk me like this and all for him. Rosalind, my heart isn't made of stone. Did it ever occur to you that I can feel pain, too?
Huh.
I was completely lost. What other man? What was he talking about? The comments filled me in. Don't worry, guys. The ML just thinks he's about to be cuckolded. RFL needs to show up soon. I feel so bad for the ML. He works himself to the bone to support his family, and his wife not only doesn't love him, but is also cheating on him. When he first heard the rumors in the village, he told himself people were just jealous of his beautiful wife. But now that she's suddenly being nice to him, his heart is completely shattered. My face went pale. Jack found out I was planning to cheat on him? This was a total misunderstanding. I mean, I had the idea, but I didn't actually do anything. There was no time to think. Jack had his head turned away, the veins in his neck standing out in sharp relief. He looked angrier than I'd ever seen him. The comments were no help, just a chorus of glee that he was finally seeing my true colors and would divorce me to be with the female lead.
Panic set in.
Then, a sharp sting shot through my calf. I realized I'd scraped my leg when I fell. Looking up, I saw Jack's gaze was also fixed on my injury. Tears instantly started to fall. I looked at him with wide, wounded eyes. Honey, it hurts. The chair crashed to the floor as Jack shot up, the coldness in his expression vanishing in an instant. He rushed over and knelt beside me, his voice tight with anxiety as he examined the injury. The angry red scrape stood out starkly against my fair, delicate skin. It's all my fault. I'm a monster. He was so frantic, he didn't know what to do. In his panic, he raised his hand and slapped himself hard across the face. Rosie, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have pushed you. Please hit me, okay? I studied his expression carefully. His eyes were filled with nothing but regret and guilt. The earlier fury was completely gone. My confidence returned. I wrapped my arms around his neck and buried my face in his chest, letting out small, hiccuping sobs. My leg hurts. I looked up at him, then pointed to my heart. But this hurts more. I know I've done things wrong in the past, but I've seen the error of my ways. I truly want to build a life with you. And you don't even believe me. My eyes were red, my expression a mixture of stubborn pride and heartbreak. The key to a man's heart? His guilt. And just as I'd predicted, my accusation left him completely flustered. Beads of sweat formed on his handsome face as he desperately tried to explain. That's not what I meant. I was so angry. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I'll never do it again. But I wasn't listening. I pushed myself out of his arms and limped towards the door. If you don't trust me, then maybe we should just get a divorce. The words sent the comments into a frenzy. Why yes. She's finally letting the ML go. I support this divorce 1000%. My face darkened, and I almost choked on my fake sobs. Screw you guys. Can't you say something nice for once? But in the next moment, my expression cleared. Divorce? Not in this lifetime. Not in the next. Jack would never divorce me. I hadn't taken 2 steps before I was swept into a searingly hot embrace. Jack held me tight from behind.
No.
I don't want a divorce. Something warm and wet fell onto my neck. I froze. He was crying. The comments went wild again. Holy crap, I get it now. She's playing him. The vicious beauty versus the loyal, rugged hero. I ship it so hard. This is some gourmet level drama. This is how you do it. What is wrong with you people? Why are you happy she's into him now? If he's not a virgin, what about our sweet FL? It's fine. An experienced man is better. I've been wanting to say this for a while. She's already lusting after the ML before he's even divorced. How is that any different from being a homewrecker? Reading that, I let a small smile grace my lips.
See?
There were some sane people in this world. When I didn't respond, the arms around my waist tightened. Jack's breathing was shaky. Rosie, don't leave me. I let out a haughty little sniff. We'll see how you behave from now on. After dinner, once he had cleaned and bandaged my wound, Jack dove back into the kitchen to diligently wash the dishes. I finally had a moment to think. The town gossip was mostly just people saying I was a pretty face who couldn't handle hard work and would eventually leave Jack. There were no specific rumors about me and another man. My eyes narrowed dangerously. So, which one of these gossips had the nerve to start this particular lie about me? The comments provided the answer. RFL is so kind-hearted. She specially came to tell the ML that his wife was cheating on him. But he's so lovesick, a few sweet words from the side character, and he's completely hooked again. Why did the author write it this way? I'm so mad. Don't worry, the FL has another plan up her sleeve. The side character only has a few more days to be smug before she's packing her bags in misery. Excuse me? Sifting through the endless stream of FL worship, I finally found her name. Lily. I quickly racked my brain for any information about this female lead. A moment later, a cold sneer formed on my lips. This is what you people call a female lead? She was Jack's neighbor, a fragile, delicate-looking girl, the picture of innocence. They were childhood friends, and a matchmaker had even tried to set them up. But Lily's family had rejected the proposal outright.
Why?
Because Jack's family had a bad reputation back then, and they were afraid of being associated with him. If someone like Lily could be the female lead, then why couldn't I? All I want is a piece of the good stuff. What's so wrong with that? I checked the time. It was the afternoon work shift. I rolled up my sleeves and marched out, ready to go have a little chat with Lily.
Imno pushube.
If you're going to spread rumors, you'd better be prepared for the consequences. But as I walked, the villagers I passed all gave me strange looks. A few of the older women who despised me the most huddled together, whispering and giggling as they watched me. Words like slut and tramp drifted to my ears. My face darkened. I strode over to them and raised an eyebrow. Talking about something interesting? Let me in on it. My voice was dripping with mockery. The women jumped. The one in the lead quickly composed herself. Rosalind, you little hussy. Don't you get too smug. Your good days are over. You think just because you have a pretty face you can bully young Jack and flirt with every man in town? Well, you've finally messed up. I had no idea what she was talking about, but I wasn't about to lose a war of words. It's called being a femme fatale. You're just an ugly old hag making trouble. Their faces turned purple with rage, but I still felt a sense of unease. The smug, gloating looks they gave me as I left suggested they were certain some disaster was about to befall me. When I reached the fields, I spotted Lily in the crowd immediately. A pale, pretty face with no makeup. The picture of innocence. In the words of the comments, she was the ideal wife. Hardworking, frugal, and devoted. Completely the opposite of my spoiled, lazy self. I scoffed. If you love to suffer, you'll never run out of suffering to do. She could have it. I was about to march over and give Lily a taste of the maternal discipline she clearly missed out on as a child when I noticed two well-dressed strangers standing beside her. They looked like officials from the county. Lily was crying, her tears like a spring shower, and the people around her looked indignant. What was going on? Just then, Lily lifted her head, and her fingers shot out, pointing directly at me. Her beautiful face was a mask of accusation. "It's her," Lily wailed, her eyes red and swollen as she pointed a trembling finger at me. "Comrades, she's the one. Rosalind has been colluding with Arthur to steal the town's grain allocation certificates. I saw Arthur slip them into her basket with my own eyes." A collective gasp rippled through the gathered villagers. In our small town during these times, grain certificates were as good as life itself. Stealing them wasn't just a minor theft, it was a serious economic crime that could land someone in prison for years. The two county officials in their sharp, dark tunics turned their cold, probing gazes toward me. "Is your name Rosalind?" the older official asked, his voice booming across the
field.
I stood my ground, my arms crossed, maintaining my composure. "Yes, that's me. But I have no idea what she's talking about. I haven't even spoken to Arthur today, let alone taken any certificates from him." Lily sobbed louder, burying her face in her hands. "Rosalind, how can you lie like this? I know you want to move to the city, and I know you've been pressuring Arthur to find a way to take you there. But to steal from the collective? To ruin your own husband's reputation? Jack works so hard for you, and this is how you repay him." Her words were carefully calculated. She wasn't just accusing me of theft. She was painting me as a heartless, cheating wife in front of the entire town. The murmurs among the villagers grew louder and more vicious. I knew it. A woman like her was bound to bring disaster. Poor Jack, marrying a parasite who flirts with scholars and steals from the hardworking folks. Lock her up. Send her to the county jail. I clenched my fists, my mind racing. I had left Arthur in a hurry earlier. But did he or Lily manage to plant something on me? Right on cue, the comments began to scroll across my vision. "Oh my God, the FL is so underhanded. She actually stole those certificates herself from the commune office, gave them to Arthur, and told him to use them to bribe the side character into running away." Wait, but the side character rejected Arthur and ran home. So how did the certificates end up in Rosalind's
Basket? Ah, I saw it.
When Rosalind ran back from Arthur, she left her basket near the chicken coop for a minute. Lily sneaked over and dropped them in. They're hidden right under the straw at the bottom of her egg basket. Holy crap, if the officials find those certificates in her basket at home, she's done.
4.
The ML won't even be able to save her. A cold sweat broke out on the back of my neck. The basket. I had left the egg basket on our kitchen porch when I ran inside to confront my own chaotic emotions. If Lily had planted them there, a search of my house would seal my fate. "Comrade," the older official said, taking a step toward me. "This is a grave accusation. We must conduct a search of your residence to clear your name." "Go ahead," Lily cried out, wiping her tears with a look of feigned righteousness. "If she's innocent, she has nothing to fear. But I know the
truth.
The stolen certificates are in her house right now." The villagers began to surge forward, eager to witness my downfall. I stood frozen for a fraction of a second, my heart hammering against my ribs. If I let them go to my house now, they would find the planted evidence.
But if I
refused the search, it would look like an admission of guilt. Then a low, rumbling voice broke through the noise of the crowd. "Who says you can search my house?" The crowd parted instantly. Jack stood there, his towering 6'3" frame casting a long, imposing shadow over the dirt road. He was still wearing his work trousers, his broad chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. He must have run all the way from the southern fields the moment he heard the commotion. His face was carved from granite, his dark eyes burning with a quiet, lethal intensity as he stepped in front of me, shielding me completely from the hostile gazes of the villagers. "Jack," Lily stammered, her voice instantly softening into a sweet, pleading.
Tone.
"We're doing this for your own good. Rosalind is betraying you.
She's
stealing, and she's planning to run away with Arthur. You have to let the officials search the house." Jack didn't even look at Lily. His gaze was fixed entirely on the two county officials. "My wife does not steal," Jack said, his voice deep, steady, and unyielding. "And no one enters my home without my permission." The older official frowned, clearly displeased by Jack's defiance. "Comrade, we are representing the county authorities. If your wife is innocent, a simple search will prove it. Obstructing our investigation will only make things worse. For her and for you. I looked at Jack's broad, solid back. He was putting his own safety and reputation on the line to protect me, even though just an hour ago, he believed I was planning to cheat on him. A profound warmth bloomed in my chest, followed by a fierce, protective anger. I couldn't let him ruin himself for me. I had to handle this. The comments flared up again. Look at the ML protecting his woman. He doesn't care about the laws, the town, or his own life. He just wants his wife safe. I'm crying. He's too good for her. Wait, the side character is stepping out. What is she doing? Is she going to confess? No way. Look at her face. The beautiful idiot has a plan. Look at those eyes. She's about to tear the FL to pieces. I stepped out from behind Jack's massive shoulder, gently placing my hand on his thick forearm. I could feel the tension in his muscles, hard as iron. At my touch, he stiffened, his eyes darting down to me with a mixture of worry and fierce protectiveness. It's all right, Jack, I said, my voice sweet but carrying clearly over the whispering crowd. I turned to the officials, a polite, calm smile on my face. Comrades, I welcome a search. In fact, I insist on it. But before we go to my house, I have a few questions for Lily. Lily's eyes flickered with a brief moment of unease, but she quickly masked it. What questions? The truth is in your house, Rosalind. You said you saw Arthur slip the grain certificates into my basket, correct?
I
asked, tilting my head.
Yes.
I saw it with my own eyes near the old willow tree by the river, Lily declared confidently. And what time was this? Just after the midday bell. Lily replied without hesitation. You were whispering with him, looking guilty, and then he dropped the packet into your basket. I smiled, my eyes narrowing. Fascinating. Because just after the midday bell, I was at the chicken coop behind my house fetching eggs. And then I went straight inside to cook lunch with my husband. Jack, did you see me leave the house after the midday bell? Jack looked at me, his eyes softening.
No.
You were in the kitchen with me the entire time. He's your husband. Of course he would lie for you. Lily protested, her voice rising in pitch. Even if my husband's word isn't enough, what about the rest of the town? I turned to the crowd. Who here was near the old willow tree at midday? A quiet murmuring went through the crowd, but no one spoke up. I let out a soft sigh, looking directly at Lily. But more importantly, Lily, how did you know the certificates were grain certificates? They were supposed to be kept in a locked iron drawer in the commune office. The only people with the keys are the commune director and the accountant, Arthur's uncle. If Arthur had them, they must have been stolen today. But the commune office wasn't even opened until 1 o'clock this afternoon. The older official's eyes sharpened. He turned to Lily. Is this true? How did you know they were grain certificates before the theft was even officially reported to us? Lily's face went pale. I heard Arthur talking about it. Yes, he boasted to me that he was going to steal them for Rosalind. The comments were practically screaming now. Bingo. The FL is digging her own grave. She didn't realize the office lock was only discovered broken at 1:30 p.m. She brought the officials to the field. Too early, because she was desperate to catch Rosalind before she could discover the certificates in her basket. Wait, the certificates aren't in Rosalind's basket anymore. Look at the latest update.
What?
What happened to them? I glanced at the comments, my heart leaping. The certificates weren't in my basket? I quickly read the rolling text. LOL. Jack's sister, young Lillian, went to Rosalind's house to borrow some salt 10 minutes ago. She saw the basket on the porch, noticed the weird packet under the straw and thought it was trash. She threw it into the pigsty next door to play with the piglets. Oh my god, the plot twist. The certificates are literally covered in pig manure right now. I almost laughed out loud. God bless my little sister-in-law. Well, comrades, I said, turning back to the officials with an air of absolute innocence. Since Lily is so certain, let's go to my house. If the certificates are there, I will willingly accept whatever punishment the law decides.
But if
they are not, I paused, casting a cold, sharp look at Lily. I expect Lily to be investigated for making false accusations and potentially being the real thief. Lily's confidence wavered, her hands trembling slightly. She looked toward the path leading to our house, clearly wondering why Arthur hadn't arrived to back her up yet. Let's go, the older official commanded. The crowd marched toward our small yard. Jack walked close by my side, his shoulder occasionally brushing against mine. His presence was like a mountain of security. He kept his eyes on me, his brows knitted in a tight frown. "Rosie," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the chatter of the crowd. If they find anything, tell them I did it. I'll take the blame." My chest tightened. This foolish, wonderful man. He still thought I might have done something foolish with Arthur, yet his first instinct was to go to prison. In my place. "Stupid," I whispered back, shooting him a warm, affectionate glare. "Just trust your wife, okay?" His eyes widened slightly, his cheeks flushing a faint pink at the word wife. We reached the yard. My egg basket was sitting on the wooden table on the porch, completely empty of straw. Lily rushed forward, pointing excitedly. "There, the basket. Search it." The official stepped up and tipped the basket over. Nothing fell out but a few stray pieces of dried grass. He reached inside, feeling the bottom. "It's empty," the official announced. Lily gasped, her eyes bulging.
No.
"That's impossible. She must have hidden them somewhere else. Search the house. Search her bedroom." "Go ahead," I said, gesturing toward the open door. "But if you find nothing, Lily, you'll have some explaining to do." The officials spent 15 minutes searching our modest home. They checked the kitchen, the cupboards, and even our bedroom. Of course, they found absolutely nothing. When they stepped back out onto the porch, their faces were stern. "There are no certificates here," the older official declared, turning his hard gaze onto Lily. "Comrade Lily, you claimed you saw the transfer and were certain they were here. Do you have any explanation for this?" No, she must have destroyed them. Or buried them," Lily cried, her voice cracking with desperation. She turned to the crowd, looking for support, but the villagers were already shifting their allegiances. "Maybe Lily was the one who took them," someone muttered.
Yeah, she's always
Hated Rosalind. Maybe she wanted to frame her. Just then, a squealing sound came from the side of the yard. My little sister-in-law, Lillian, came running into the yard, holding a filthy, mud-caked oil paper packet with 2 fingers. "Look what I found in the pigsty," she chirped happily, completely oblivious to the tension. The piglets were chewing on it. The older official snatched the packet from her hand. He carefully peeled open the dirty paper, revealing a stack of red and blue papers. The commune's official grain certificates. "Here they are," Lily shrieked, her face lighting up with a manic, triumphant
grin.
"I told you. She hid them in the pigsty. She's the thief." I didn't panic. Instead, I let out a light, mocking laugh. "Lily, are you sharing a brain with those piglets? If I had stolen these precious certificates to run away to the city and live a life of luxury, why on earth would I throw them into a muddy pigsty to be eaten by swine?" The crowd murmured in agreement. It made absolutely no sense. I turned to the official. "Comrade, please look closely at the oil paper wrapping. Is there any writing on it?" The official wiped away some of the mud. His eyes narrowed. "There is a name printed on the corner. It's a prescription slip from the county hospital made out to Arthur's father." A collective gasp went through the crowd. "And look at the mud," I continued, stepping closer. "The paper is soaked through, but the certificates inside are barely damp. If they had been hidden there for a long time, they'd be ruined. They were thrown in there very recently. In fact, my sister-in-law just found them. Lily, you were the only one who went near the pigsty when we entered the yard, weren't you?" The comments were flying by in a blur of excitement. "Oh my God, she's a genius. She used the pigsty thing to completely trap the FL. The FL is shaking. Look at her. She's realizing she's completely cornered. And look who's coming down the road. The police have already detained Arthur at the commune office, and he's singing like a canary to save his own skin." Right on cue, a young man from the commune office came running up the road, panting heavily. "Director, comrades," he gasped, addressing the officials. "We found Arthur. He confessed. He said he stole the certificates from his uncle's desk, but he claims he didn't do it alone. He said Lily convinced him to do it. She told him that if they framed Rosalind, Rosalind would be forced to divorce Jack, and then Arthur could have Rosalind while Lily could marry Jack." The silence that fell over the yard was deafening. Every single eye turned to Lily. Her face was entirely drained of color, her lips trembling as she backed away. No, that's a lie. Arthur is lying. I would never." "Take her in," the older official ordered his colleague, his voice cold as ice. "We will conduct a full investigation at the county station." The assistant official stepped forward and grabbed Lily's arm, pulling her away, as she began to scream and cry, begging Jack to save her. But Jack didn't look at her. He didn't look at the crowd or the officials or his sister-in-law. He was looking only at me, his eyes dark, deep, and filled with an emotion so intense it made my breath hitch in my throat. The crowd slowly dispersed, whispering excitedly about the massive scandal that would keep the town talking for months. Arthur and Lily were escorted away in disgrace, their reputations ruined forever. Once the yard was empty, Lillian took the hint from her brother's terrifyingly intense stare and quietly slipped away to play at a neighbor's house. Only Jack and I were left on the porch. The afternoon sun was beginning to dip below the horizon, casting a warm, golden glow over the yard. The air was thick with the scent of blooming wildflowers and the lingering heat of the day. Jack stood a few feet away from me, his large hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. He looked like a man standing on the edge of a precipice, unsure whether to jump or run. The comments started rolling in, softer now, but no less excited. Oh my God, the air is so thick you could cut it with a knife. The ML is completely overwhelmed. He realized his wife didn't cheat. She defended him. She called herself his wife in front of everyone, and she ruined the woman who tried to break them up. Look at him. He wants to devour her right now, but he's still terrified he'll scare her. Someone give this giant puppy a push. I smiled inwardly. A push? I was going to give him a shove off the cliff. I took a slow step toward him, my hips swaying slightly, my eyes locked onto his. Jack, I murmured, my voice soft and slightly breathless. Are you still angry with me? Jack swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. He shook his head slowly, his voice rough and gravelly.
No.
I was never angry with you, Rosie. I was scared. Scared of what? I asked, taking another step. I was close enough now to feel the heat radiating from his body. Scared that you'd leave me, he admitted, his eyes darkening with raw honesty. I know I'm just a rough farmer. I don't have a college education like Arthur.
I
don't know how to speak beautifully or buy you the fancy things you want. I thought you deserved someone better. My heart twinged with a mixture of guilt and tenderness. I reached out, my small, fair hands resting against his broad, solid chest. I could feel his heart hammering wildly beneath his sweat-drenched shirt like a trapped beast. Arthur is a thief and a coward, I said, looking up into his eyes. He's not even a fraction of the man you are. I don't want a scholar, Jack. I want my husband. Jack stiffened, his breath hitching. His hands hovered near my waist, trembling, but he still didn't dare to touch me. Rosie, do you mean that? He whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I do, I said, leaning in closer, my chest brushing against his. But a year of marriage, Jack, and you've never touched me. Do you really find me so unattractive? No. The word burst from his throat, loud and desperate. His hands finally slammed onto my waist, his grip tight and possessive, pulling me flush against his hard, muscular body. The sheer strength of his hold made me gasp, but I didn't pull away. I leaned into him, enjoying the feeling of being completely enveloped by his massive frame. I want you so much it drives me crazy, Jack growled, his face flushing a deep red, his eyes burning with a passion he had bottled up for an entire year. Every single night, hearing you breathe on the other side of the room, I've had to go freeze under the well water just to keep myself from coming into your bed. I was terrified, Rosie. You're so delicate, so beautiful. I was afraid if I lost control, I'd hurt you. I'm too big, too rough for you. The comments went absolutely wild. So I crap. He admitted it. The leashed beast is breaking its chains. I repeat, the beast is breaking its chains. A year of cold showers. This man's willpower is god tier, but tonight is the night. Look at his waist. Look at his grip. Rosalind, you better prepare yourself. You're not getting out of bed for a week. My cheeks burned at the comments, but a thrill of excitement ran down my spine. I wrapped my arms around his neck, my fingers tangling in his short, damp hair. I'm not as fragile as you think, Jack, I whispered against his lips, my voice a playful, teasing purr. And I think it's about time you stop taking cold showers. Jack's eyes darkened to a pitch black. He didn't say another word. He leaned down and captured my lips in a kiss that was anything but gentle. It was hungry, desperate, and filled with a year's worth of repressed desire. He tasted of wild heat and raw masculinity. His tongue swept into my mouth, claiming me completely, while his hands gripped my hips, lifting me slightly off the ground as if I weighed nothing at all. I let out a soft whimper, my head spinning. The comments were right, this man was a weapon. When he finally pulled back to let me breathe, both of us were panting. His forehead rested against mine, his chest heaving. "Go inside," he rasped, his voice incredibly deep and rough. "I need to fetch some hot water for a bath. You should get ready." I smirked, my fingers tracing the line of his strong collarbone. "Don't make me wait too long, husband." By the time the sky turned into a deep indigo, the house was quiet. I had bathed and changed into a soft, thin nightgown made of pale pink cotton. It was loose, but the thin fabric clung to the curves of my body, showing the outline of my breasts and the sweep of my hips. I sat on the edge of the bed, my heart racing with a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. The comments were scrolling by, but they were starting to flicker and blur, as if the system was struggling with what was about to happen. "Oh, the system is starting to censor. The screen is getting blurry.
No.
Don't block the good stuff. We've waited a year for this." A look at him, he's carrying the wooden tub into the kitchen. He's already bathed, his hair is damp, and he's wearing nothing but a pair of loose cotton trousers. His chest is literally glistening. Someone screenshot this. The ML's body is a work of art. I stood up and walked to the doorway of our bedroom. Jack was just emptying the remaining water from his bath. The comments hadn't
Leet.
He was shirtless, his broad shoulders and back glistening under the dim light of the oil lamp. The muscles of his back shifted and flexed with every movement, a perfect V-taper leading down to his incredibly lean waist. The loose trousers hung low on his hips, revealing the sharp lines of his lower abdomen. As if sensing my gaze, he turned around. When he saw me standing in the doorway in the semi-sheer nightgown, his eyes widened, his throat contracting as he swallowed hard. "Rosie," he murmured, his voice incredibly gravelly. I didn't speak. I simply turned and walked back into the bedroom, leaving the door ajar. A moment later, the door creaked open, and Jack stepped inside, closing it firmly behind him. He bolted the lock with a decisive click that seemed to echo in the quiet room. The oil lamp on the bedside table cast long, flickering shadows across the room. Jack walked over to the bed, his movements slow and deliberate, like a predator stalking its prey. The insecurity that had plagued him for a year was gone, replaced by a dark, consuming hunger. He stood by the bedside, looking down at me. "Are you sure, Rosie?" he asked, his voice shaking slightly despite his imposing posture. "Once I start, I won't be able to stop. I won't let you go." I reached up, grabbing the hem of his loose trousers, pulling him closer until his knees pressed against the edge of the mattress. "I don't want you to stop, Jack," I whispered. With a low groan, Jack leaned down, his massive body pinning me gently but firmly against the mattress. The heat of his skin was overwhelming. Every touch of his calloused hand sent shivers of electricity straight to my core. He started at my collarbone, his lips leaving a trail of fiery kisses down to the valley of my breasts. I arched my back, my hands gripping his muscular shoulders as a soft gasp escaped my lips. At the sound, whatever restraint Jack had left completely shattered. The thin nightgown was swept away, and I was fully exposed to his burning gaze. His eyes swept over my body with a look of pure, unadulterated worship. "You're so beautiful, Rosie," he muttered, his voice thick with desire.
My wife. Mine.
"Yes, Jack, yours," I gasped, my fingers digging into the hard muscles of his back. The comments in my vision suddenly began to glitch and turn into a series of scrambled blocks, accompanied by a hilarious system notification. "System warning. Content violates community guidelines. Stream is being harmonized. Visual feed blocked. Enjoy the audio description, users." Damn it. The harmonization system strikes again. But wait, the audio is still
On.
Oh my god, the side character's voice is so sweet, and the ML is growling like a literal beast. He's telling her to say his name. Oh my god. I'm blushing. He's so strong, he's literally holding her up by her waist. This is too hot. I barely had the capacity to notice the comments anymore. My mind was completely consumed by the sensory overload of Jack's touch. He was incredibly strong, yet surprisingly gentle where it mattered, guiding me through the sudden, sharp pain of my first time until it dissolved into a wave of dizzying, breathless pleasure. He moved with a powerful, relentless rhythm that left me completely breathless, clinging to his neck as if he were my only anchor in a stormy sea. His stamina was indeed endless, just as the comments had promised. We went at it until the oil lamp flickered out, and the room was bathed in the cool, silver light of the
moon.
By the time he finally let me rest, I was completely drenched in sweat, my body tingling with a deep, thoroughly satisfied ache. Jack held me tightly against his chest, his large hand gently stroking my damp hair, his breathing slowly returning to normal. He kissed the top of my head, a soft, content smile on his lips. "I love you, Rosie," he whispered into the darkness. I curled closer into his warmth, my eyes heavy with sleep. "I love you too, Jack." The next morning I woke up late. The sun was already high in the sky, pouring warm light through the window.
I
Tried to sit up, but a sharp ache in my waist and thighs made me wince and fall back onto the pillows. I looked down and saw that my skin was covered in faint, dark bruises in the shape of large fingers, a testament to Jack's overwhelming strength and how hard he had held me. A soft chuckle escaped my lips, and the comments slowly drifted back into my vision, now completely clear and normal. "Morning, beautiful idiot. You survived the night. Look at those marks." The ML really didn't hold back once the leash was off. He's currently in the yard, chopping wood, looking like a man who just won the lottery. He's been smiling like a fool for 3 hours straight. Honestly, they are so sweet together. Who cares about the original FL? This is way better. I smiled. The comments were right. My life had completely changed, and I had no intention of going back to the tragic path the original novel had laid out for
me.
Just then, the door creaked open, and Jack walked in carrying a steaming bowl of sweet potato porridge and a plate of perfectly fried eggs. He had a clean shirt on, but his face was bright red the moment he met my eyes. "You're awake," he said, his voice softer than I'd ever heard it. He set the food down on the bedside table and sat on the edge of the mattress, gently pulling the blanket up to cover my bare shoulders. Does it still hurt?" I pouted playfully, reaching out to pinch his cheek. "You're a beast, Jack.
My
Whole body is sore. How am I supposed to do any chores today?" Jack's eyes filled with immediate panic and guilt. "I'm sorry, Rosie. I'll do all the chores. I'll wash the clothes, clean the house, and cook dinner. You just stay in bed and rest, okay? I'll take care of everything." I laughed, wrapping my arms around his neck and pulling him down for a sweet, lingering kiss. "I'm just teasing you, silly. I'm happy." Jack's expression softened, his dark eyes shining with deep affection. He leaned down and kissed my forehead. "I'll make sure you're always happy, Rosie.
I swear. It.
Over the next few weeks, our lives fell into a beautiful, harmonious rhythm. With Lily and Arthur gone, Lily had been sent to a youth reform farm in the county, and Arthur had been dismissed from his post and sent to do hard labor. The village gossip completely shifted. No one dared to call me a barren hen or a hussy anymore, especially since Jack's devotion to me was obvious to everyone. He bought me new fabrics from the county seat, brought me fresh wild berries from his hunts, and practically carried me whenever we walked on rough
roads.
But I wasn't content to just let him do all the work. Using the rolling comments as a guide, I began to learn about the upcoming changes in the country. The comments often discussed the reform and opening up policy that was about to be implemented, which would allow private businesses to
thrive.
The economic reforms are starting next month. The county town is going to open its first private market. Yeah, the ML in the original novel became incredibly wealthy by starting a transportation and logistics business. If the side character is smart, she'll encourage him to buy a tractor now while they're cheap. I took note of this. One evening, as Jack was rubbing my sore shoulders after a long day of work, I
turned to him.
"Jack, I've been thinking. The county seat is changing. They're starting to allow private trade. Why don't we use our savings to buy a second-hand tractor from the commune? You're so good with machinery and people will need help transporting goods to the city." Jack paused, his hands resting on my shoulders. He looked thoughtful.
A
"Tractor? That's a lot of money, Rosie. It would take almost all of our savings." "I trust you," I said, turning around to face him, taking his hands in mine. "You're smart, and you work harder than anyone. We can build a better life for ourselves, and eventually we can move to the city together. Not because I'm running away, but because we're going there together." Jack's eyes shone with a sudden, powerful ambition. He nodded firmly.
All right.
If you believe in me, Rosie, I'll do it. 2 years later, the small, dusty town was unrecognizable. The dusty roads had been paved, and the first private market in the county was bustling with life. And at the center of it all was Jack's transportation company. What started with a single, second-hand tractor had grown into a fleet of 3 large trucks. Jack was no longer just a rough country farmer. He was a respected, local businessman. He wore clean, well-fitted shirts and leather shoes, his rugged hands now commanding a team of workers. But despite his success, some things never changed. Every single evening, no matter how busy he was, Jack would reject any invitations to drink with his business partners and rush straight home to our newly built, 2-story brick house at the edge of town. I stood on the second-floor balcony, rubbing my slightly rounded stomach. I was 4 months pregnant. The comments in my vision were now peaceful and warm, like old friends. Look at her baby bump. She's going to have a beautiful baby.
The ML is
Going to be such a doting father. He's probably going to buy out the entire toy store. Honestly, this is the best ending. The villainous ex-wife turned out to be the perfect match for him. They saved each other. I'm so glad we got to watch this journey. Bye-bye, Rosalind. Live happily ever after. I smiled, a tear of gratitude slipping down my cheek. I looked out toward the road and saw a familiar black truck pulling into the yard. The door opened, and Jack stepped out. He looked up at the balcony, his handsome face instantly breaking into a bright, dazzling smile the moment he saw me.
he
Ran up the stairs, taking them 2 at a time, and burst through the balcony.
doors.
Without a word, he wrapped his arms around me, pulling me into his chest, his face buried in my neck as he took a deep, content breath. I'm home, Rosie, he whispered. Welcome home, husband. I replied, wrapping my arms around his broad, solid back. My destiny had been completely rewritten. I was no longer a tragic side character destined for a miserable end. I was the leading lady of my own, beautiful, passionate, and perfect life, wrapped tightly in the arms of the man who loved me more than life itself.